Developed by Eugen Systems and published by Ubisoft 16 years ago for the Xbox 360, PS3, and PC, Ruse: The Art of Deception is a game many of you may have forgotten even existed. Now, aside from the fact that this is an RTS game with support for the PlayStation Move controllers of all things, which is bizarre enough by itself, this game also has, let's say, some unique tank configurations. From Japanese OIs with flamethrowers and rocket artillery built in to FCM F1s with anti-aircraft guns, this leads to some interesting battles. With the game finally being released from the greedy clutches of Ubisoft fairly recently and now available again on Steam, what better time to tackle the wacky tanks of Ruse?
Really quick, before we get into the video, I just wanted to let you all know I just added some brand new Kobe sets to my store, including some Mark Vs and an HMS hood. Grab one at ConeOfArc.store through the link below, and I'm now including a T-34 Tanky keychain with every order completely free. Now back to Ruse. There are a lot of tanks in Ruse, with the 7 playable nations getting a combined total of 43, not including tank destroyers or AA vehicles built on tank chassis. Most of these aren't particularly interesting, aside from some strange balancing choices like the Churchill being able to body a German King Tiger or watching an entire convoy of Shermans get annihilated by a few French B-1s. However, what really gets interesting are the late game vehicles, especially the ones you get from the prototype bases. Take the aforementioned OI for Japan. Ignoring the armor values, which are wrong for most of the in-game tanks for balancing reasons, the same cannot be said for the fact this thing gets not just a 105mm gun, but also a flamethrower turret and the ability to launch rocket barrages. If you've ever had the pleasure of facing these, you'll quickly realize the description isn't lying when it says they can pulverize heavy tanks and infantry. I've had a handful of these defeat me and a friend because they can wipe out every single defense you have from miles away before you can fire a single shot against them. Most of their other armored vehicles are fairly typical or even a bit on the weaker side, but I should mention they also get an armored recon which has the same level of armor as the OI, meaning they can send in scouts which are just as immune to your anti-tank weapons as the OI itself. Oh, but if you think that's bad, just wait until I introduce you to the FCM F1. For as bad as the OI is, you can at least counter them with fighter bombers if you've built a decent air force. This is not the case for these super heavies though, thanks to the fact they carry their own 40mm AA with them on top of having heavier armor than the OI. This makes them effectively a French mouse tank, but with the ability to defend itself from planes as well. This AA isn't insanely strong like the OI's rockets, but a few of these tanks operating together can prove extremely hard to kill from the air. I would say thankfully it doesn't get artillery as well, but by simply buying a couple of the ARL-40s with them, you can annihilate pretty much everything you encounter. On top of that, they also get one of the weirdest kit bash tanks in the game, combining the standard turret from the Samua S35 with the SAU 40 to create an utterly cursed French M3 Lee. Now, if you want to talk about strong AA, we can jump over to the Germans who get the Wirbelwind. I like the Wirbelwind a lot. In fact, I have the 128 Kobe version of the tank on my shelf. But I don't think a couple of Wirbelwinds should be capable of fending off an entire combined aerial attack of B-17s and paratroopers without a single one successfully reaching the target. Oh yes, if you think the FCM F1 is bad, try facing a German AI that spams Werbels, mouse tanks, and a healthy dose of about 500 Stukas. This is mainly just part of the weird balancing I mentioned earlier, but I bring this up as an excuse to complain about why they gave the mouse a 125mm gun. The hundreds of prototype tanks I can forgive, but that is a step too far. Back to goofy tank choices, allow me to introduce you to the Super Pershing Super Heavy tank. No, you didn't mishear me. Despite having the exact same armor value as the standard Pershing, the Super Pershing in Ruse is considered a super heavy tank despite being better in every aspect aside from the actual armor. The US also gets the iconic T-95 Doom Turtle, which is portrayed fairly realistically aside from when you kick on the Blitz power-up, which gives you stuff like this.
I love watching them like pop a wheelie and also flatten multiple cows.
This is obviously just for the sake of gameplay, but I wanted an excuse to mention it because it's really funny to watch. Unfortunately, both the British and Soviets don't have anything particularly interesting, with their prototypes being fairly standard and even arguably on the weaker side, especially for the Brits. The Churchill and Churchill AVRE being armored the same as the King Tiger, like I mentioned earlier, is quite funny. Same with the IS-2, bizarrely only having the armor penetration of the Panther, despite being the best heavy you can get aside from the IS-3, which requires a prototype base. These aren't quite as funny as having a swarm of Italian P-26s, which have equivalent armor to the Panther and Tiger though. Combined with the Lancia Flemme, which is dirt cheap, and the M15 Contraero, which is nearly equivalent to the Wirbelwind, and late-game Italy can be as annoying to face as Japan. I just played a match the other day with a friend, and the Italian AI kept going back and forth between the two of us, sending massive waves of P-26s absolutely slaughtering their way through my T-95s and Jacksons. That was in between bombing raids from approximately 1 million Sparvieros at my base as well. If you've made it this far into the video, you may be thinking this is all me criticizing the game, but it's actually quite the opposite. Ruse is by far one of my favorite RTS games to play, specifically because of things like what I just described. Not only is the game way easier to pick up as a beginner to the genre, but many of the nations are designed in such a way that they cater to different playstyles. For example, the British tanks are absolutely terrible compared to pretty much everyone else, aside from maybe Italy, but they make up for it with much stronger air units. Each nation has particular units that can make it suit a particular kind of player, which is something we seem to have lost in a lot of newer games. Take games like War Thunder and World of Tanks. Each tree you played used to feel like they had a unique playstyle, with that extending down to individual lines of vehicles. However, now each nation seems to blend together, especially with War Thunder, where everyone ends up sharing the same few top-tier vehicles. This is something I really wish more games did, and seems to be slowly fading even in the RTS genre. If you haven't seen my video on the problems with realistic tank games, I didn't discuss this topic specifically, but it fits nicely into that discussion. Ruse may not be a very realistic game when compared to things like Warno or the Steel Division games, also made by Eugen, but it is far more accessible and I would argue often more fun to play. Be warned if you do decide to pick up a copy of the game for yourself now that it's available on Steam though. Along with making the DLC available, they also appear to have updated the AI to the point where the harder difficulties border on cheating with the sheer unit spam you will be forced to fight. When I mentioned the swarm tactics earlier, I was only partially exaggerating. Here's a clip of one of my old streams to show you exactly what I mean.
I forgot that the flamethrowers were really good against tanks. Oh, and here they come. Oh my god. Oh god. All of my Shermans are dead.
Anyways, if you made it this far into the video and you don't already own a copy of Ruse, I'll leave a link down below to the Steam page, or if you want to try out the weird move controls, you can find a used copy for the Xbox 360 or PS3 for less than 20 bucks. I might have to get a PS3 myself just to try out the move controls, so if you guys liked this video and you want to see that, let me know, because I'm very curious to see how that plays. The manual kind of shows the controls and everything, and it looks horrible. Thanks as always to my ConelyFans who helped fund me being able to buy this particular copy just to use for a prop for this video, and to all of you for watching. Hopefully you found this video entertaining, or if you've never heard of Ruse before, you decide to give it a try for yourself. I genuinely think that this is one of the best World War II RTS games for beginners, and it sets you up perfectly to more easily get into the later titles like Steel Division or Wargame. That's all I have for you today though, so hopefully I'll see you back here for another episode of Fake Tank Friday or one of my other videos.